Welcome to the 14th episode of the Nerdom and Other Nonsense Anime Podcast, your go-to source for episodic reviews of Spring 2017's best currently airing anime. Today marks the 7th week of the season, so we're starting to get deep into the plots of most of these shows. My name is Bcom, and I like to dance around the house in my romper with a fidget spinner in either hand. Also with me is Leo.
Wow, you're like the trendiest guy I know, but I gotta ask, what is it you're jamming out to when you're doing this?
Well, there's an old song by the Divinals that goes something like, I don't want anybody else. When I think about you, I touch myself. Whoa. Something like that.
Oh, that's perfectly appropriate for that, I guess. You ready to kick things off?
Sure, let's get right into it.
All right, Sundays, Alice and Zoroku, episode 7, Friends. And I will say I'm still very happy with the direction this show's going. What do you think?
I think I'll get into it at the end. Why don't you give us the synopsis?
All right. So Alice is still doing her cute little girl thing of like making up her own songs and singing to the flowers as she waters them. Ichijo shows up and Alice tells her they are getting on a train today. Ichijo's going with them. She already knows this. And also Alice, like in just a little cute little thing, just keeps forgetting to add the honorific to her name. So Zoroku like keeps correcting her each time. It's adorable. But they end up getting to the station and Zoroku shows Alice how to buy a train ticket and how to get on the train. Just a neat little thing there. You did a lot of that when you were in Japan, didn't you?
Yeah, for sure. It's fun figuring all that stuff out. And yeah, to see Alice learning how to do it was kind of cool. Like, I like how she ran through the thing to catch up to the ticket as it went through the machine. It was kind of cute.
So they get to their destination. Zoroku has a little job he's got to take care of real quick. It's just another flyer arrangement. That's what he does. So Alice and Ichijo kind of go do sightseeing. And like Alice gets to see the ocean for the first time. She's totally like blown away. They end up going to a cafe and having Alice do some of her schoolwork because Ichijo has been teaching her and stuff. Well, she completely aces her math test. It just blows Ichijo away. She's like, you're almost beyond what I can teach you at this point. It was like the first year of high school math. Like soon she's going to have to get somebody else to help teach her. And Alice just thinks math is like the easiest thing in the world. And she makes a comparison that like watering flowers is harder because you have to, depending on the flower or, how much sun it got that day, you have to give it different amounts of water. But she thinks math's better because it has methods and answers that are all defined. Mm-hmm. It's interesting how she thinks. We find out that like Alice has trouble with word problems and reading. So basically thinking outside the boxes, we're saying is what Alice's problem is. So she's the complete opposite of me. She's great at math, sucks at reading. I love reading and I am absolutely terrible at math.
I'm definitely more like Alice. I was always better at math and worse at like reading comprehension and long word problems. For sure. English was my thing. I usually finish the book before the class even got past chapter 2. I can just destroy a book pretty quickly, really. Yeah, I'm a slow reader. I'm like the exact opposite.
Yeah. So Ichijo has also turned their trip into like a learning experience and says they're going to visit a car factory. So I guess that's a thing in Japan. Zoroku finishes up with his business and meets up with the other two. Alice is like super excited from getting back from the car factory, and Zoroku's just glad nothing crazy happened while he wasn't there to watch after. Earlier I want to say that Alice said that reading and stuff is, what was the word they used? Was it frazzled?
Yeah, she keeps saying that she's frazzled.
Yeah. This is kind of important, and it keeps popping up, which kind of leads to where this episode is going. And that's when like just weirdly at the end of the scene, Alice's like a little dream thing pops up and like malfunctions and then just disappears, and they all just stare at it like, okay, that was odd.
Yeah.
So Asahi, one of the little blue hair girls, twins, is at a pork bun stand and like debating to give her all the ones they have made because she likes them so much, when her other sister Yonaga has been like running around looking for her because she basically ran off, and like just breaks into this lecture about spending all their money when she's at the pork bun stand and stuff like that. And she finally gets her to shut up by shoving a pork bun in her mouth, and she's just like I thought it was cute. And they just accidentally run into the other three, and they're like, "Oh crap!" and they just start running away. But before they get too far, we see like Ichigo like put like a little paper tracking device on one of them, so they can easily track them. Obviously, at this point, they've like escaped to a rooftop and stopped for a moment to catch their breath, and they go to leap to like another rooftop when Alice shows up like right in front of them. They throw a chain net on her, and like Alice breaks it apart with a robot, and then they make like this chain bridge and start riding a motorcycle across. And then like I was just cracking up because Alice comes flying up next to him like a rocket, and she's like yelling at them like, "Why are you running away from me?"
And like people are looking on in the crowd, and they're just like, "Oh, that must be a really good stuntman." I'm like, dude, no stuntman could do this.
No, did you see the links in that chain bridge? Oh god,
yeah,
it'd be impossible to ride a motorcycle across it. You would honestly have to hit it going like already 100 miles an hour just so like you don't actually get the chance to really dip into one of those links. But anyways, this is anime. I mean, they're freaking summoning anything they want, so why are we bothered about this? Mm-hmm. Yeah, but like Zoroku and Ichigo are like seeing this disaster unfold from below. And that's where like everybody's looking at it and they're like, I think somebody says like, is that a circus or something like that? It was weird. But then we go right back to the girls, and like Alice's dream malfunctions and just summons this like giant blobby anomaly. It wasn't really anything. It's just like they just needed to do something weird.
Yeah.
But Ichigo transforms and takes care of it. And then she also punishes the girls by like shooting them up into the atmosphere or something. It's kind of weird and funny. But then she also like starts setting off fireworks and confetti like to play the whole thing off as like a show or something like that. And we find out later that's what she did. They played it off as like they were shooting a scene for a movie or something. That's when we see like Ichigo on the phone. She's holding like a piece of that anomaly and says it's just a piece of carbon again. So I've seen this happen before, which is interesting because when it malfunctions, it summons like a large object of carbon. Interesting. So we have the twins, Alice, Zoroku, Ichigo are all at the restaurant, and Alice is like making the cutest pouty face ever.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, and then this is where Alice starts talking about the frazzled thing again, and she keeps talking about it and brings it up, and like basically she's expressing her frustrations at the two twins running from her. And she also brings up how it happens when she reads. And what it is, it's her experiencing like anger / she's just experienced feelings that she's never felt before. Because if we remember correctly, she basically came into existence from nothing and was a blank slate and slowly had to learn everything. So it's not too interesting to see that like suddenly she's experiencing this emotion she's never felt before and she doesn't know what to think about it.
Yep.
She explains it like she knows her when she's frazzled that she knows she's herself, but it's like she isn't herself. And that's when the twins say, "I think you're just angry." And like Alice is just like blown away by this whole revelation.
Yeah.
Yeah. But after they eat, Alice and the twins are like walking through a graveyard when Alice elaborates a little bit about her errors that keep happening. They just happen sometimes and they always produce something. And we've saw both examples of it producing something and then also not producing something in this episode. The twins do tell Alice that it's true. They've missed her and are glad to see her again. And then we get a backstory on the twins, and it's pretty freaking dark. Basically, they were abused really badly by their father, and then in the end, they ended up killing him.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're already young, so they're even younger when that happened. It's just crazy. Yeah, we also find the twins will be going overseas to an American school, and they've already started to make friends and have like joined clubs. And I just wanted to point out, it's highly unlikely that the clubs they joined are actually American clubs. The badminton one.
Yeah, good point.
I was just like, are you sure you're going to America?
Like, that's pretty rare. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you're going to a very specific school, I would say, or a very, very high class, maybe.
I guess so.
Yeah, but it just makes Alice prompts her to just ask if like school's fun and stuff, and I'm just going to answer for her, no, but the twins say it's really fun. School's not fun, kids. It's boring. So we just get another bad scene of Alice in the bat telling Sane about her day. That's it. just real quick. Nothing even like QC happened, I don't remember.
Yeah, by the way, I had no problem with that bath scene. That's just a normal expository bath scene. No fan service.
Yeah. It seems like they're just going to keep playing it as like a transition scene almost. Mm-hmm. Which I'm fine with as long as they just keep at the level they're at now. But Alice like wakes up in the middle of the night and she's just crying, and Sana is still up. She's just goofing off on her phone and whatever, and she like goes and sees what's wrong with her, and they both sit down at the kotatsu and they talk it out, and Alice is just concerned how she keeps feeling weirder and weirder since she's left the facility. The frazzled feelings are just, Alice learning about her emotions. She's just slowly learning about one emotion after the next. It is kind of cute, actually, I thought. But then just as of ending scene, Sana helps Alice send an email to the twins, and it just turns out she was just missing them, and, sending an email and talking to him, helped her out a little bit.
Yeah.
But you got something you want to add?
Yeah, I have a couple thoughts on this episode. Asai and Yonaga's backstory, I felt backed up my points over the past few weeks a little bit, because they have this extremely dark childhood where they were physically abused by their father to the point where they murdered him to stop it. And the point I want to make is that this had a lasting effect on their characters and how they view other people and how they view the world at large. Like, it informs things about their character. Like, they don't want to go out into the world. They tell Alice that like they can't survive out there, that the world is an evil place. Whereas Alice, who experienced being shot and kidnapped and physically abused, has no lasting effects. And that's why I had a problem with that.
Yeah, but Alice is very different. She's not human. She was that's why I said earlier, she was a blank slate, and like she doesn't know what anger is until now, where the girls, where the twins learned it naturally. So like, it may be she doesn't know how to react to it at this point, and when her emotions develop more, maybe it will come back to haunt her a little bit.
Exactly. What I was going to say is I think this episode has sort of cleared that up for me a little bit, because the whole frazzled thing is that Alice is now finally experiencing those emotions for the first time, whereas she was completely detached like from people and reality while she was living at the research facility. And so maybe now for the first time with Zoroku and Sanae, and now with her new friends like the Hinagiri sisters, she's starting to accept the unknown ideas of friendship, family, and love into her heart. And so that's kind of fun to watch, and I want to see how that goes. But the other problem is, like, I keep thinking about Alice as like a ticking time bomb, especially with these errors that are popping up in her mirror gate.
Yeah, that's kind of a big deal. That was a big red flag for me. I was like, ooh.
Yeah,
you gotta figure this out.
I'm just like, man, should she really be living in like the center of Tokyo amid like millions and millions of people?
Oh, I just made a quick connection between when her thing malfunctioned and nothing happened, and then the other time when the anomaly happened. It was both at high points with her emotions.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably what's causing them. She just has to learn her emotions to get them out of control. It's interesting, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, it's hard to expect that of a little girl who's been like locked away from the world for years. Like,
she's not a little girl.
Well, she is in like her mind. She is a little girl.
Yes.
She doesn't understand anything about the world. And like a teenage girl is just as bad emotion wise.
Oh God.
Like,
I think it's better Alice is as young as she is, because if she was a teenager doing this, I think the world would probably come to an end.
Oh God. Yeah. I mean, they have the next couple of years to look forward to with that. I mean, I just feel like the people looking after her are kind of stupid in expecting her not to like flip out at any given point.
What do you think they should do instead?
I think they should move her to the middle of Mongolia where she can't hurt anybody. Like, I don't think she should be in Tokyo. It's just ridiculous. I know because it's an anime, it has to be set in Japan. So she can go do cute things, and they can have cross promotion with Snickers bars. But
and
like,
Carl's
she should
Jr.
be like she's maybe not a facility, but like a tiny village somewhere in the middle of nowhere. Even in the countryside of Japan would be better. Because like where she is now, she could cause so much destruction if the slightest thing goes wrong. Yep, that's about it. But yeah, I do like the direction the show is moving, like where it's all cute and stuff now, but it's also like there is a hint of darkness and like bad things that are still to come. So we'll see.
How many episodes is this show supposed to be?
I think 12.
Really? Because there's supposed to be 2 new characters we still haven't met yet.
Yeah, so we have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So five more episodes to go. Wait, no, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah,
5. I mean, they could possibly still pull it off pretty well, but I think they're cutting it close.
Yeah, I think those 2 girls will be important to basically whatever the final arc of the show ends up being. But yeah, it's going to be maybe a little bit rushed. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay, you want to move on?
Yeah, do it.
All right, this week we had Little Witch Academia episode 20. And it's just another amazing episode of this show, which we're just getting spoiled at this point. Mm-hmm. Andrew and Akko begin the episode. They're pleading with Diana to at least hear Akko out and reconsider becoming the head of the family and, leaving her life at Luna Nova behind. And guess what? Leo 100% called that the unicorn horn from the statue outside of Diana's manor was going to be significant.
I don't need credit for that. I think it was way too obvious.
For whatever reason, I just didn't notice it. So I'm like,
it was
impressed.
Like the beginning shot was this super dark scene with the castle and the moats and this bright turquoise green light shining. I'm like, that's something, right?
Yeah, you're definitely right. I think I was just flipping out over seeing Diana in horse riding gear. I didn't notice.
Yeah, you may have been caught up with that.
So it turns out when there's a Venusian eclipse, when Venus is blocked out by the moon, that the unicorn horn reacts to it and opens the shrine to perform the ritual to change the head of the Cavendish family. So Diana forms this vine magical bridge to get across to where the shrine is to try and perform the ritual. But on her way, she's attacked by her aunt's snakes and is captured. I will also note that her aunt looks very feminine there. I don't think that theory went anywhere with the snakes, meaning that she's like a guy. I don't think that had anything to do with it, unfortunately. We can't always be right, Leo.
I know.
Andrew tells Akko she's being selfish.
I just felt like it was really there, though. I mean, I made a couple cases, but then I agree she looks very feminine now. I'm just like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
Here's a guess.
Yeah. If you were right, I would have been just blown away. So
I wish I was right.
So Andrew tells Akko she's being selfish and she should just respect Diana's feelings. But Akko is convinced that there must have been at least one thing that Diana went to Luna Nova for that she hasn't accomplished yet. And Andrew tells Akko that there's a time in Diana's childhood where she couldn't even use magic at all. She lost her ability to use it, and she separated herself from her friends and determined to gain the use of it back. Just separated herself from everyone.
It's kind of interesting why she treats Akko the way she does, because we now kind of know why.
Yeah, she kind of sees Akko in herself, I bet, a little bit.
Yeah, she sees it a little bit of herself, and she just wants Akko to really try harder because, she's like, I did it, you should do it too.
Yeah, stop whining so much and just try harder is probably Diana's outlook on Akko.
Yeah.
Andrew and Akko's conversation is interrupted by Daryl, her aunt, and her daughters, who are bragging about having trapped Diana with the snakes and stopping her from completing the ritual.
Man, this is like freaking family. Those are your cousins and your aunt, your mother's sister. Family is horrible to each other. Yeah, they're really awful. Just evil aunt and stepsisters and stuff, whatever, Not stepsisters, but cousins. Yeah, they're cousins, it's just crazy to me because I come from a family where I think any of my cousins would take a bullet for me, and I do the same for them. Yeah, and there's a lot of us. Not like we're slim pickings. My poor quick back history with me. My poor grandpa had 5 daughters. Oh wow! And each of them had 2 children, and then most of them now have kids of their own. So family gatherings are freaking huge. It's awesome. But anyways, yes, go on. Enough about me. Let's talk about this awesome show. Yeah. So Akko and Andrew hurry off, and they find Diana's attendant, who's guarding the entrance to the Cavendish chamber, and she warns them that something terrible will befall anyone who disturbs the ritual, which would probably include Diana's aunt. So that's a little bit of foreshadowing. It's also the custom for Cavendish family members to pass through the door only Cavendish family members. So after
they get the door open anyway, Andrew and Akko, and Andrew's about to come with, but Akko just tells him, hey, I'm a witch, I will handle this. And the attendant yells after her, like, but the customs! And Akko's just like, customs are meant to be broken! And just runs
What?
in. Yeah. So Akko crosses the vine bridge in her little mouse form.
Well, she actually kind of convinces the attendant also that, you know, she needs to go save Diana.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah.
And she makes Andrew stay behind because reasons.
Well, he's not a witch. He's not, like, equipped to handle this stuff. Yeah.
Still, an extra pair of hands might come in handy. You never know.
This is true. But for whatever reason, she goes on her own. She transforms into her mouse form and starts crossing that vine bridge that Diana had formed earlier. But she starts to notice that the vines are shifting a little bit underneath her, and she's actually running up the body of one of the snakes. She freaks out, but then she quickly and smartly uses her transformation powers first to shift into a bird to float above the snake, and then immediately shift into an elephant that comes down on the snake and crushes it beneath her, and it loosens its grasp on Diana. The two snakes bite into her elephant ears, but it's really funny because she's like, oh, you think you're poisoned something? I have Tsuki poison me all the time. So she's like, she has no effects. And she transforms into a turtle. So then the snakes are like biting into her hard shell. But there's a third snake that's ready to just like pounce on her face. But Diana casts magic that sends all the snakes away right before that happens. So yeah, then we get this awesome scene. Basically, Akko like faints, and Diana is tending to her when she wakes up. And she says that the eclipse is long over, and she didn't have a chance to perform the ritual.
Which is weird because it's not over, and they do say that. She doesn't. I don't believe she said she's like we wouldn't make it in time. Yeah. I believe she said like it was over. And I was like,
yeah, Diana thought the eclipse was like long since over for whatever reason.
Oh,
I think
thought it
she
was
just
over.
was using Akko being. I think at this point in the episode, she was using Akko fainting as like an excuse to not perform the ritual. Like, because I don't think Diana really wants to perform the ritual, like as much as she says that she does. Like,
yeah, possibly.
She wants to go back to school,
but she's also living by her family's motto.
Yeah,
by stopping and saving her.
Oh yeah. Akko apologizes, and Diana insists that she just wasn't adequate enough to take over the family, and Akko holds no responsibility for what happened. And then they realize, Diana explains they're in a room that used to be a secret wartime hospital where all of Diana's ancestors since the Middle Ages would heal wounded soldiers from nearby conflicts, whether they were friendly or enemy. They just didn't care, and that's why they had to keep the hospital secret, because, you know, some people didn't want them healing enemy soldiers, but that was their motto. Basically, they go into the next room, and it's this huge library of the Cavendish family's books that contains like 1,500 forms of healing magic. Many of them are outdated because of the advances in modern medicine, but in the center pillar of the room is a statue of Beatrix, who's one of the old 9 witches who created the family's founding motto, which is affection. And Diana tells Akko how proud she is of her ancestors and her mother for protecting this tradition. And Akko grabs Diana's hands, and she's got like teary eyes and yells like, "You can still protect this house!" Which I thought was good advertisement for Under Armour, but
I didn't even know that was their motto.
We must protect this house.
Is that where that comes from?
Hard.
I just remember people yelling
it. Under Armour commercials, yeah. She tells her the best option, she tells Diana this, is to pursue her dreams all at once. Be the head of the house and go back to school. If anyone can do it, you can do it. And Akko speaks the words, "Believe in yourself and your heart." And one of the gems on Cherio's staff illuminates. And Diana knows the word and tells Akko to recite it. It's Sibiladura Laladibura, which meaning that like when traditional and modern powers mingle, the gate to an unseen world will open. And the staff then transforms into Chariot's broom called the Shiny Volley. And Akko tells Diana to take it and like go and do what she needs to do. And Diana jumps on, and then she extends her hand back to Akko and says, "Get on, let's do this together."
I have a problem with the scene because I felt like they missed a perfect opportunity for Akko to learn the fly broom.
I know. I keep wanting it to happen. I just think at this point it's not going to happen.
You make me keep looking for it now because you kept bringing it up. So when I watched this scene, I was like, "Oh man, it shouldn't have like worked for Diana. It would only work for Akko." So she had to fly. I thought that just would have been great because we would have had some.
I thought it would totally work. Yeah.
Yeah, because then
like
Akko
for some reason it would work because it was Shiny Chariot's broom.
Correct. And it would be Akko, advancing herself also.
Yeah. Oh man, they keep missing these opportunities. Maybe they must know, they must know that they're missing these opportunities.
It's because they're saving it for the finale.
Exactly, they gotta be saving it.
So it's the final episode, and she finally flies, and Yumira's like, "Thank God!"
Finally, a 10 out of 10. I'm waiting for that.
We're just so happy it happened. We just forget anything that we thought was bad.
I feel like if it doesn't happen, it'll be the one part of this show that I was actually disappointed in. So anyway, the broom. When they take off, it tilts vertically like a rocket booster and then shoots them way up past all the bookshelves and this huge pillar in the middle of the room. They fly up through the lake or moat or whatever that surrounds the unicorn. And they see that the eclipse isn't quite over. They still have a little bit of time. So Diana turns on the afterburners, and the speed makes Akko break out into these weird, monkey noises. It was kind of weird. She was like, it's stupid.
I missed that. I'm sorry.
It sounded really funny. If you go back and watch that scene, I guarantee you'll laugh. So the unicorn's gem is shining his horn, and the waters around it, open themselves in a whirlpool, and Daryl and her daughters get on their brooms and launch one last attack against Diana, but they cast these magical snakes and they all just bump into each other, all three of them. They do no damage. So Diana descends down to the shrine, but her aunt and the daughters pursue, and they get turned away by this magical barrier, which then starts turning them into trees. The bark just starts eating up their skin basically and consuming them. So then Diana has a choice. She could either perform the ritual or she can save her aunt and cousins.
I felt like this was completely obvious since we just got the huge speech about family.
Affection.
Yeah. I was
friend or foe.
Yeah, there was no doubt in my mind where this was going, but it's fine. So
she saves her family members despite them being bitches. And then a spectral form of Beatrix appears before her, and she doesn't say anything and disappears within a few seconds, but I got the sense that she approved of Diana's choice, even though she wasn't able to perform the ritual. After this all happens, Diana's house servants vow to protect the manor until she returns from school, saying hey, there's no reason for you to stay here now. Go back to school, pursue your childhood dream. And the head attendant gives her back that little box that she was hiding the Shiny Chariot card in and says, just follow the dream that you've had since childhood. And Diana and Akko fly off, and we see Andrew driving away as well, and in the car next to him is Akko's hat, which of course she forgot. Mm-hmm. And then Diana tells Akko she has one thing that she still needs to say to her, and she says, "I'm really grateful for what you did." And then Akko's like, "What? Can you say that again, but a little bit louder?" And they fly off back to Luna Nova. Man, what a fantastic episode.
Yeah, I'm just curious about something. So did Daryl decide not to keep blowing the rest of the Cavendish's assets?
So she seemed like she was a little bit moved by what happened when she was talking to the attendant right before the end of the episode.
I got that, but they didn't outright say anything. I felt like that problem went unsolved.
Yeah, I mean, she may still start blowing the assets, but she does say maybe Diana will be able to restore this family. Even she was impressed.
Yeah. And so it does sound like she got turned around, but I think they just needed to add a little bit more of that because I wasn't really quite convinced.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the house servants will be able to convince the aunts to stop wrecking the finances and stop selling things off. Maybe. That's the sense I got, at least. And the other thing I'd just like to say is throughout the whole second half of the episode, especially in the scenes between Diana and Akko, the music was just fantastic. It was just a sweeping orchestral score, really just helped me get into the mood of the show. And I just would say that Studio Trigger have settled into such a groove with this show that I'm about ready to call it an all-time great show. It's so consistently good. They only have a couple more episodes before they land the ending of this. So I just hope they bring it home well, because God, it's such a good show.
I agree with you 100%. It's really great. So let's move on to Mondays. We're going to do Grimoire of Zero, but we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're experimenting with doing shows that don't really need too much of a synopsis, but we're going to do more discussions about them. See how that works out.
Okay.
All right. Episode 7, Plasta, the royal capital. The beginning is just a recap of the end of the last episode. There's nothing to discuss there. But we move on, and like Mercenary's quip when he's talking to the guards about, he's like, yeah, when witches open their mouths, it's nothing but food they talk about. The guards are like just confused.
Yeah, they're just both like, what? How does he know that?
Yeah, it's really odd, and I thought it was funny. But then he ends up at the front of a tavern, and the guy is just like, hey, just take any of the alcohol you want. He's clearly afraid of the beast fallen. There's like another beast fallen that comes by and grabs some of the alcohol or whatnot. Mm-hmm. But like, I guess he has a daughter, and she like sees this whole thing, and you fell in love with her and her blue ribbon.
Yeah, so as these shows often do, they introduce a character who is way cuter and way better in every single way than the main character of the show, Zero. Like, because she's 1, actually of age, 2, she's better character design, 3, everything I like about her, unlike Zero. Like, she's just so much a better character. Of course, there is one flaw with her, which I'm sure you'll get to.
I don't think. Well,
the racism.
I have a funny flaw. Well, yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. But so I would like to quickly note, Mercenary works for people way too easily. Like, he's immediately coaxed in by the bar girl to help her lower the chandelier so she can get to the candles and whatever. And she's like falling for him like super quickly. Goes as far as like suggesting when he opens his tavern that she's his wife that helps him run it.
She's like, every tavern needs a beautiful tavern girl, and she's kind of suggesting she could be that girl.
She flat out says it.
Well, she says, I'm the girl for this tavern, at least. And then, she definitely indicates that she's kind of interested in having that happen. But there's an ulterior motive to that conversation.
Yeah. I'm just there's too many of the women in this world are into furries, man. So we got Zero, and now we got bar
Again,
tavern girl.
She's not into furries, though. Like,
I don't know. I felt like she was really into Mercenary.
I think she found him different from all of the other Beast Fallen who she was used to.
That's because she saw him, pay for that pig guy.
But even then, she was thinking the whole time, we're going to use this guy. I can use this guy to make like my life better, basically. And
I honestly felt like she could have just flat out presented an offer to him, and they could have worked something out. Because like I said, he works for people too easily. He literally for no reason is now helping her with some of the work around the place. Mm-hmm. Oh, and there was just this weird at the end of one of the scenes, like she asked him, why don't you turn into a human if you can do it now? And he says doesn't want to get into any trouble. What's the logic behind this?
I didn't get what he meant by that.
I don't either. I mean,
he doesn't have a very good excuse, I don't think.
I think he just, if they had played it off like he was just trying to come up with a reason, he didn't really know himself, but they play it off like, yeah, that's my reason, man. I was like, what?
Yeah. I don't want to get into any trouble. I really don't understand what he meant. Yeah.
But anyways, I got the next scene with the tavern owner, which is her dad, and them talking, and like, so this really comes into like this crazy talk about kind of racism and in another sense, like religions being an issue. Like, they're judging all the Beast Fallen off of like one experience, because we know they can go into like that hungry mode, and apparently she had lost her mother. Yeah,
like a Beast Fallen straight up ate her mother.
Yeah.
Like ate her. Like we saw like a brief shot of that. So like she has every reason to hate Beast Fallen, I guess. But
but they're basing it all off one. Yes, there's been other ones that are being dicks to them, obviously. But it's just it comes with like a current problem we have today. Like, a lot of people, like, they hate Muslims because they heard one of their nationalities was Muslim, and they blew up some church or something. And suddenly it's just ignorance, and they think all Muslims are like that way or something like that. The show's kind of doing that with that.
Yeah.
But it's not really true. There's plenty of like Muslims that are like not radicals. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but she's talking with her father, and they're talking about using mercenary, to get rid of these meaner beast fallen and whatnot. And then she like threw out the food. I didn't know what that had to do with anything.
Yeah, I didn't get that either.
The food, yeah, that mercenary made earlier. She just like threw it away, and it almost looked like it was like the catalyst for mercenary because he overheard this whole thing, and like that was what like set him over the edge. I don't know. I think the talk about being used by them was just enough. But anyways, he walks out and he like kicks their butts anyways, and then like leaves.
Yeah, he kicks the two beast fallen guys out basically.
There's three,
and then he pays for his stay and then leaves. Yeah, or there's three of them. Yeah, you're right.
So as soon as Wolf Guy showed up, he's left. He's out in the wild or whatever, camping. Can't start a fire. But then Wolf Guy shows up, and I'm like, I feel like this is going to get really interesting. And it totally did. He's brought some witches with him, and I'm curious how he found and hired them. I guess, you can just put a classified ad out and like, I need some witches to come and kill some beast fallen for me. and it just does a quick scene jump where Zero has to be like hell in love with Mercenary if she's that angry over it when she's confronting 13 about it. Like, wow.
Yeah, well, she's pissed, like, you took my mercenary away kind of thing. Yeah,
like way pissed. I'm like, Jesus, girl, I'm pretty sure you're just head over heels for mercenary at this point. But anyways, like, they go back to mercenary, and he's fighting off all the witches and whatnot, and like one of them betrays the wolf guy and like shoots him right in the side, and he falls down. And then this is where it got really interesting. Mercenary kind of gets in a predicament, and one of the arrows that they're shooting actually hits him. But then instead, all the damage gets transferred to Zero, who's like in battle mode with 13. And then she like passes out. And it totally made me think of the bass scene with Mercenary, where she like was doing that cutesy joking, drawing that spell on him or something. Yep. I'm pretty sure that's totally what she did, was do that transfer damage spell.
If not then at some other point, she clearly put like a rune on him or something that transfers all damage to herself. And yeah. I knew there was something more to that scene. Like at the time, she was saying something like, "Oh, I'm going to make it so you always love me and like always stay by my side." And she was kind of joking, but clearly she was doing something. So
yeah, but that says a lot about her. Like this just states my point that like she's so in love with Mercenary that she will die for him at this point. Which is what she did by putting that spell on him.
Yeah, it really clarifies that 13 was wrong, and she is not going to betray him. And she really was devoted to him. So,
yeah, but the thing is right now, Mercenary doesn't know what that was about. He's just confused. I bet once he finds out, he's going to be like, 100% loyal to Zero and Defender and be like, I was wrong,
Definitely, 100%.
So yeah, he's taken out all the witches, and there's like one left. It's a female, and she's like trying to run away, and she trips and falls, and she's scared. And like she calls him a monster, and like he started to go into that hungry mode. And at first I was like, he's been called monster 100 times. Why is it now? But then I kind of thought about it, and I guess this is more of a specific situation. He just got attacked, high adrenaline. He's killing people. That made more sense that why it triggered him to do that. But then he has a memory of Zero, doesn't he? And that gets him to pull back out of the hunger mode, right?
I think so. Yeah, his eyes go from red back to normal. Yeah,
yeah, but he's got her like pinned down too, and like hand like over her face. She's just like crying. She thinks she's gonna die. And so the wolf guy did really pay out in the end, because we basically new leads on the book. He was supposed to be protecting what's her name's granddaughter,
Serena, his granddaughter. Yeah.
So that's really cool. And then the show gives us a very mild fan service shot of like Zero in bandages and tight enough to give her a little bit of cleavage, I guess.
Yeah, I thought that when I saw the scene, but I was like, when I really think about it, when has those bandages on, you actually see less of her skin than in her normal everyday outfit. So is it really fan service? I don't know.
Yeah. And I just want to say, 13, he's coming across to me as like a quiet, way overprotective older brother to Zero. Mm-hmm. Like, he will fight with her day and night, but he just wants her to stay in the cave and be safe. And even when she gets damaged from Mercenary taking that shot, he fixes her up and puts her in a bed. When they were just getting ready to battle and supposedly maybe end one of each other's lives. So that's how he's coming across this to me. It's just not like an actually evil guy. He's just, and I mean, it's as such a brother move. She's interested in some dude, and so he gets rid of the dude.
Yeah.
He totally did that. I just thought that.
Yep, pretty much.
He's such an overprotective older brother. That is totally his MO. But do you got anything else you want to add to it?
I had written in my notes, was Zero in a coma at the end, or was she just asleep? I don't even know. Like, for some reason I had the word coma written down.
She took damage and passed out, so she could just be resting, or she could be in a coma.
Resting. I was just saying, like, she can stay in her coma as long as we get Blue Ribbon Tavern Girl for the rest of the show. Like, I'll just watch the show about her now. They'll be fine with me.
Oh, God.
Oh, man. And I think the only other thing I would note is that, like, the witches that the wolf dude hired, like, I guess their eventual goal was to just take the heads of both of the Beast Fallen. So that's why they sort of went along with his plans, because they were going to kill him and then kill the other Beast Fallen and get 2 heads and that much more power from it.
Probably. That'd be my guess too.
Nah, but that's about it.
Woot.
All right, let's move on to Wednesdays and Sakura Quest. We had episode 8, The Fairy's Recipe, this week.
I liked this episode.
Yeah, it was pretty decent.
And there's like 100 wardrobe changes through the whole thing.
Oh my god. Well, starting off with the girls want to help out Shiori's family with like their harvest and like the agricultural work. And they're all dressed in different outfits, which I think you wrote down. Like,
wait, they're outrageous. Like Maki's in like that yellow Kill Bill suit. That's what I thought it was.
Yeah, that's what it was, totally.
Yeah, another one's like she's like in the hazmat suit because she's so afraid of bugs and stuff.
Yeah, Sanae, yeah.
And then Riri is dressed
like
as a ninja.
With like a scythe. Yeah, like it was ridiculous. And yeah, Yoshino is like pretty normal, honestly.
Yeah, she had like an honest like a worker
cowboy hat or something.
Farmers. Yeah, like it's just like a sun hat to keep the sun off, straw hat or whatever. But it was, I was just did that opening scene. I just had to pause it and stare at it and be like, what is going on with this show?
So out of the tractor comes Sayuri, who is Shiori's older sister, who is
waifu material.
She is definitely waifu material. PA Works' older sisters are always gorgeous.
She's only second to man, I forgot her name, Angelica.
Oh, in this show, yeah. I was just going to say, like, whenever I watch a PA Works show, I always look forward to, like, the older sister characters, because they are always super hot.
Oh, you've just been waiting this whole time.
So, we find out that Sayuri is a pediatric nurse. They're eating, like, a huge meal at Shiori's house, and the food is so good that they want to make Shiori the minister in charge of what they're calling the C-rank gourmet, which is like they're supposed to find a signature dish for like the land of Chupacabra to attract more tourists to Monoyama. And they talk about how 10 years ago Kadada had come up with the idea for a Monoyama burger, but it was a huge flop. So they need to come up with something different. So the girls all make dishes, but they all are pretty bad. Like Riri's is probably the worst. It looks like a bug, and it's like got cream coming out of it, and Yoshi's like, that cream's coming out of a weird place, and
it's green too.
It's green, and Riri's like, that's what I like about it. Everybody else is like pretty bland or boring, and Shiori's tastes good, but it doesn't have a lot of impact. And everybody else's dishes had like nothing to do with Monoyama whatsoever. So they decide to ask around maybe at some of the local restaurants for advice. And so Shiori's family goes out to dinner at one of those local restaurants, and they're amazed at how good their meal is when it's all sourced from local ingredients. And it turns out the chef is a young guy named Kumano, who was Sayuri's high school classmate. And he'd been training in France and has come back, and he's took over his father's old noodle shop and turned it into this new restaurant. And Shiori's grandma, like, connivingly asks Kumano if he's single.
Dude, the grandparents are freaking great.
And she's like, well, look, I've got my 2 granddaughters here. Just pick one. Either one. Take them away.
Just sell them. I was like, man, they want to play matchmakers hard.
And then Sayuri definitely, like, she looked down in a way, but she kind of seemed like she was quietly into the idea. But Kumano said, like, I'm not worthy of either of them or something like that.
Damn, that's a good line, dude.
Yeah.
I'd give you a high five.
He's playing his cards right. The girls are trying to catch some fish the next day, like with their bare hands in the river, and they're not able to do it. But like somebody points and says, like, there's a bear over there. I think it's Ririko.
Yeah, I think it's Riri.
And you see Kumano, he's like fishing the freaking fish out of the water with his bare hands, like slapping them onto the shore like a crazy dude. And he cooks all these fish with a little bit of salt for them for lunch. And he basically offers to give them a list of all of the local ingredients he uses for his restaurant, so they can come up with something. As they're walking back, Shiori asks Kumano about like what her sister was like in high school, and he remembers her having a lot of fans. And it's clear Kumano was interested in her then and is interested in her now, but like doesn't think that he has a chance, basically. And the other girls who are walking like behind Shiori and Kumano think that he's interested in Shiori. And then later when Maki and Sanae are grocery shopping, like Shiori's grandparents overhear them gossiping about this and get the wrong idea.
I want to say at this point, this was like the 3rd wardrobe change, and we're still at the beginning of this episode.
Yeah, they really love dressing up these girls in different outfits, and I can't blame them.
I'm totally all for it. It's really cool because they use it as a transition to tell you it's the next day.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely true.
And I think that's just great.
So then the girls all cook another round of dishes, and they're all failures again. Shiori's is good, but again, it doesn't have like impact. And like they keep saying like, we think you should be the leader on this, but she's saying, I don't want to take the responsibility. I don't know how to be a leader. So she refuses. And then when she goes home, her grandparents have been talking to her dad about what they think they've figured out with Kumano. And her dad takes her out for a walk and wants to tell her about some things.
And it's all such a misunderstanding.
Yeah, but it was also a nice scene because he's basically like, hey, so here's the situation. Like, you might be a bride soon, in sometime in the near future, and I just want to let you know how our family is doing. Like, in the next 10 years, like your mom and I basically are not going to be able to tend to the farm anymore, but they have local day jobs in the town, so they'll probably be all right. He's basically telling her, like, do what you want, like, don't feel pressured to take over the family farm.
Which is why I forgive the misunderstandings. Usually I hate scenes that are misunderstandings. I don't think they're very well written, but this one had a different objective to it, and yes. I was fine with it.
Yeah, I was totally fine. He didn't pressure her into like marrying the guy or anything like that. Like he didn't even mention the guy, I don't think. So that night, Shiori talks with her sister Sayuri, who is looking at Kumano's yearbook photo when she talks to him, and about how the conversation with the dad caught her off guard. And Sayuri admits that she was interested in Kumano in high school, but similar to something he said before, thought he was hard to approach, and vaguely says that he didn't come to something that they had promised to do in the past. He had said the same thing about her. So in the next day, Oribe comes into the tourism office and starts yelling at them because the girls didn't coordinate with the Board of Merchants, and they planned the C-rank food reveal on the same day as the summer festival for the town. So she's really pissed that they didn't notify her and thinks that they're trying to sabotage the festival or something. And the girls all decide that they really need to go apologize to Oribe because they messed up. And Kadada says at first that he's not going to go, but then Shiori changes her tone of voice and asks, "You're joking, right?" As you said, she kind of went yandere for a minute there.
Dude, she's like, You think so? And does like the head tilt with the wide eyes. And I was like, whoa!
Yeah.
I love that.
She can get what she wants.
Perfect character to do that because she's the calmest out of everybody.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or Riri could probably pull it off too.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, but people expect her to be weird, you know?
Yeah, but Shiori is just out of nowhere and all just like, awesome.
So yeah, they all go to the Board of Merchants to apologize. But Oribe has also found out in another little subplot this episode that Kadota has been planning to make a cheaper version of the Chupacabra manju by importing cheap foreign ingredients to make them cheaper so they can attract more tourists. And so she yells at him because like, this has nothing to do with Manoyama anymore, this manju. Like, why do you think this will help the town? And she's really pissed at him, and she's asking them, like, how will you take responsibility for your mistakes? And Yoshino is about to say that they'll cancel the presentation of the food when Shiori finally jumps in and she says, forget it. I'm going to take the lead on this project, and I'm going to find a way to make everybody happy. Not only the Board of Merchants, not only the tourism people, but like everybody in Manoyama. I'm going to put a smile on their face. And Oribe's like, you really think you can do that? And she's like, yeah, I'm going to take the lead. So, yeah, I'm sure next episode we're going to see how much of a leader Shiori really can be. Any other thoughts on that one?
No, I'll just say again that the wardrobe changes are amazing. I love how it just, and this is just good writing and good directing without flat out saying, this is the next day. They do it by changing their clothes, and you mentally, even if you don't notice consciously, you probably subconsciously are like, oh, this must be the next day.
Oh yeah.
That's great. That's awesome. I like to see that. And I think this episode is an improvement over the last couple. I think the movie shooting wasn't that interesting, and I don't really know why, but this one like had all my attention again.
Yeah, I really liked Kumano as a new character. I'm really interested in him and Sayori both. Like, so this injected a little bit of something I needed, I guess, from this show. So,
all right, you want to move on to one that you love so dearly? Yeah. Sure, because we all know Bcom loves Busto Shoujo Machiavellianism, also called Armed Girls Machiavellianism.
What is the title of this episode, Leo?
I'm going to tell you what I think it is. Why you don't get it. His and cross-dressing her circumstances.
First of all, grammatically, that makes no sense.
I think cross-dressing is a play on words as supposed to be addressing.
Cross-dressing. Well, okay, so I immediately thought of the anime title, like His and Her Circumstances, when I looked at this title. But
I think it's supposed to be his and addressing her circumstances, and they just threw cross-dressing in there because they thought they were being clever.
I guess so, because this episode has nothing to do with cross-dressing. I mean, like, there's a conversation between Nomura and Mr. Bighead at the end, who is a cross-dresser.
But he's cross-dressed the whole time.
Yeah, I don't know. So, yeah, why don't you get into what happened this episode?
I just think it was them trying to be clever, and it's not. But anyways.
They're not very clever, which is clearly indicated by this episode.
Oh, so this show just starts off with a bang. We get a big old pink tongue licking something with like Tamaba's voice saying, Nomura-chan, over and over and over. But it was just Nomura asleep, and it was actually his bear wife who was licking his face.
My ship is sailing.
And Tamaba was sitting there going, Nomura, Nomura. The two were just watching him as he slept in the hospital. He's in the girls' infirmary, and like Tamaba says, oh yeah, you need to get out of here without causing a fuss also. And like Warabi is also in a bed next to him, but separated by a curtain. Because, you know, her battle didn't go very well either. She just passed out in the end. It does a quick rewind to what happened before Nomura passed out in that infirmary. Nomura is like offering his hand to Tamaba to help pull her out of the water, but then she suddenly like hears people coming into the other room, and it's the Three Musketeers, and she just quickly pulls him into the water, and then he's like, what the heck was that about? And gets him to shut up by just shoving his face into her boobs.
Yeah.
Total fan service, man.
It was funny.
But let's be honest, ladies, if you want your man to shut up, shove his face into your boobs.
Works every time.
Should work almost every time. I know that would shut me up. I'm not usually a big talker anyways, but if I I don't know, would be like, that was the dumbest thing ever, and you just shove my face into your boobs, I would probably forgive you for whatever I was angry with you about anyways. But back to the Three Musketeers. They're inside. They find the two passed out people, but then Inaba shows up real quick with their maid. It turns out the maid's like the she oversees the whole dorm and stuff. She's just with her for whatever anyways. Inaba tells everybody to take them to the infirmary, and she's like, but I have business with the other two inside the bath. So Inaba enters the bath, and like Tamaba has her back to her, and it's pretty funny. Inaba's like, why are you even trying to hide the situation from me? And Tamaba's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm the only one in here. She said it like twice. It was pretty funny. She lets Tamaba know that the other two have been taken to the infirmary. Seems they were poisoned. She leaves, and at first I thought she told Tamaba, but she was talking to Nomura, that she'll be waiting for him in the yard by the fountain so they can discuss something.
Oh, yeah, I didn't quite get that at first either. You're right, though. That's definitely what she was saying.
I had to come back and recorrect that because I was like, what? Because she's talking to Tamaba the whole time, and just the way I get maybe the translator worded it, it didn't sound like she was talking to Nomura. But
yeah,
she finally releases Nomura from her boobs, and he like gasps for breath, and Tamaba also tells him that like he'll never be able to beat Inaba. And like then Nomura like passes out from all his injuries because he was tortured before, and then his battle with Tamaba, so on and so forth. But then Ren's trying to sleep, is like having trouble sleeping. She's even trying to couch sheep, but then the sheep turn into Nomura in like a sheep costume.
It was pretty dumb. I liked it though.
Yeah, well, she gets up, and then she just convinces herself, I need to go hear Nomura out properly. She's under the assumption he's like still in the torture room. She has no idea what else is going on, and she's like sneaking down the hallway. And why do they do that thing where they hold their arms out in front of them like T-Rexes or something?
Oh, yeah, I know. They do that in all these anime. So I guess that's like the traditional sneaking motion.
That's how you sneak.
I mean, I guess like Scooby-Doo kind of does that stuff too.
Oh, yeah. Scooby-Doo. Love that. Love the original Scooby-Doos. But anyways, she runs to Mary, who's doing the exact same thing. But then they're both like, yeah, I'm just out getting a drink, So they end up going to the cafeteria. And they're both contemplating how to get the other to leave. And that's like when Choka and Nono show up and are surprised they aren't in the punishment room. They're like, why are you in here? We thought you'd be in the punishment room. Yeah, but so those two have not joined them, and it's become much harder, but they both had the same thought. They're like, I'll just outdrink the other one so that they have to leave. Well, this doesn't go well at all. And like they're both ready to burst. They're at their limit. And that's when Tamaba shows up and says, oh yeah, Nomura's in the infirmary because he attacked me in the bath and hit me. Yeah. So it sounds like she's totally misleading them, which is, I mean, that's how many times have they attacked Nomura for misunderstanding
misunderstandings? Something? Yeah, plenty of times. Yeah.
So Tamaba goes back to the infirmary and says she carried him, through the girls' dorm completely butt naked.
Of course she did.
Yeah. Since Nomura never went to meet up with Inaba, I guess she fell asleep at the fountain and got a fever. It's just weird.
That was so weird. Yeah. I guess she's just really frail, lowly girl. So
yeah, the maid says, you've never had a strong body. You've always been weak at one point. Tamaba also she explained everything to the two girls, and Nomura has nothing to worry about. And she's like, I just told him you attacked me in the bath and it blew out my left eardrum. And he's like, what? That's a total misunderstanding.
Yeah, they're going to take it the wrong way. God damn it.
And then Tamaba leaves and she closes the door. Then Nomura's like, man, she's the devil. And then she immediately pops back in real quick. And she's like, yeah, I get that a lot. And then she's like, also, you have a visitor. And she opens the door all the way, and Ren's standing there, and he's like, oh shit, I'm gonna die. But then he runs in and immediately apologizes. And Nomura has this inner monologue, and he's like, that bitch did tell the truth. And Tamaba does the thing where she pulls down her eyelid and sticks out her tongue. I was cracking up. Tamaba is like one of my favorite characters in this show. She's just fucking batshit. But when Ren ran in and bowed and apologized, Nomura was still in the process of changing, and he had his shirt on, but his pants weren't on yet. So she looks up and just face full of penis, man.
Mm-hmm. That's what she wants, isn't it? She just can't admit it to herself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at least Mary can kind of admit it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe a little bit better. But anyways, I was honestly finding this episode way funnier than some of the other episodes. But
yeah,
maybe that's
in some
me.
ways, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's just so off the rails, and don't take this show seriously, please.
Well, the show is about to try to take itself seriously, so
I think they were playing on it.
They were, but like, yeah, even so.
Yeah, but then at the end of the scene, Tamaba leaves, and we get a shot of like Mr. Big Head with a Jason mask on, waiting to talk to her. Ren's really worried about this big scar he saw on Nomura's back because she feels like that was from their battle, and she feels really bad for it. And she's like, "You can do anything to make up for it," which is just like this. God, this happens all the fucking time. He's like, "All right, close your eyes. And now tilt your head up a little bit." And she's like, "Oh, he's going to kiss me. He's going to kiss me," which is exactly what she wants. But instead, he removes the half of her mask. And then she gets all pouty and proclaims she would rather him look at her naked body. What?
Yeah, so she's really ashamed of her face. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is where it tries to get serious. And she's like, "I'm ashamed of my face because my father cheated on my mother, and I guess she sees a bit of my father in her, and you know, she always made me wear a mask around her and told me I was ugly and so on and so forth." And so that, yeah, like I said, it's getting serious. And but then they give us a shot of Robbie awake in the bed and having to pee really bad. But she's like, "Oh man, they're having a moment. I can't interrupt this. I can't interrupt this." So so
dumb.
Any thought of you thinking the show is going to be serious should have been dashed right now, and no, it's going nowhere. But Ren was really happy when Nomura told her she was pretty before when he saw him when he first battled her. And she now wants to remove the mask because he did, but Nomura says she has to remove it herself, not him. She ends up putting it back on, and then Nomura says, "After all that, you still love your mom?" And he's like, "I don't get it. I was an orphan. I can't remember what my parents' faces were." And he's going on about how the old man made him train his body until he broke down to the point he couldn't even use a sword. And then we keep going back to shots where Robbie trying to hold it and trying to think of things to distract her. And she just thinks of this scene of playing in the water with some of her friends. And she's like, "Why am I thinking of water?" And then the bear slides a bucket through the curtain.
That was my favorite part of the scene is when the bear
and Robbie's like, "Don't give me weird temptations."
That was pretty good.
Oh man. But Robbie thinks they're finally done talking, but then Mary shows up and she's also there to apologize and immediately strips off her clothes, and she's wearing another sexy bra, but it's blue this time. And of course he denies her because he doesn't want a woman who just throws their body at him. And then in that scene, we just see the bear walking out with the bucket.
I thought the bear was going to carry Warabi out with him, but that was
I thought she was going to be on the other side too, but they didn't.
Yeah.
So, and then they cut back to a final shot of Warabi under the covers, and she's crying, but she's like, then just a quick final scene. Nomura back in his room, and he's not mad at Mr. Bighead for drugging him because he probably did it to protect the boys' dorm. And Mr. Bighead also got Tamaba to stamp his card for him, so Nomura is happy about that. End of episode.
Yeah, nothing too serious happened in this episode. It tried to get a little bit
in
heavy
the show.
Yeah, well, yeah, in the show, but it tried to get a little bit heavy with Rin and Nomura's back stories.
But they dashed it immediately.
But it's since this is the only time that they got serious about characters' backstories, it leads me to believe that Nomura and Rin are supposed to be the OTP, the couple in this show, even though it's a harem. I think their relationship has clearly been defined as the most meaningful one.
Oh yeah,
so
I agree.
Yeah. Speaking of meaningful relationships, do you want to move on to the next show?
Sure. Go ahead.
So we've got Tsuki ga Kirei on Thursdays, and we had episode 7, Hold Back Nothing When Taking Love, this week. Oh my god, I fucking love this episode.
Whatever.
So, the episode opens with everyone in an amusement park called Dome City in Tokyo. And they go to board a roller coaster, and the attendant asks if anybody is willing to ride single. And I like how Roman just like jumps at the opportunity, saying that like their group of 9 people would have had one left over anyway. So he just walks to the beat of his own drum and goes off on his own. That leaves everybody else to pair off, and Chinatsu quickly makes her move and asks Kotaro to sit next to her. And this leaves Akane sitting next to Hira, who Chinatsu also invited, by the way. She's pretty devious. So while Akane chants like, "Oh crap, oh crap, oh crap," as they're ascending to the top of the roller coaster, Chinatsu kind of looks at Kotaro and says like, "Hey, you're not bothered by this stuff at all." And Chinatsu is pretty into it too, which kind of goes to my theory that Chinatsu and Kotaro are a kind of better pair for each other in a lot of ways. Like they're very similar people.
Yeah, they have a lot in common.
There's also something to note. So like the OP plays after this. Finally, they animated the part of the OP that had those weird festival dancers with masks on. Like previously, it was this weird live action shot that like intercut with all the other animation. But since we had a recap episode last week, I guess they took the time to just finally animate everything, and it looks much better now. I always hate seeing random live action footage in an OP, unless it's like, say, Space Patrol Lulico, the way that it did that, or FLCL, Fooly Cooly, did it in a really cool way.
To me, it's just kind of out of place.
Yeah, unless it's part of the theme of what they're going for, it's out of place for sure.
Yep.
So yeah, Akane had a rough time on the roller coaster, and she sort of stumbles as she's getting off, and Hira helps her up with taking her hand, and that makes Kotaro pretty jealous, but he doesn't say anything. In the next scene, the group, they're all looking at souvenirs and they're trying on cute hats and stuff, whatever. And there was this weird situation where the camera in these shots kept cutting to these pink teddy bears like 5 separate times during this scene. And there was like no apparent reason why. I really didn't understand why they were doing that, unless it was just to save the animators from having to animate the whole group of people, that entire scene, because that's a heavy animation scene. But it just felt awkward to keep cutting to those teddy bears. I didn't get it. Maybe I missed
kind of
something.
Brought you out of the show because you're sitting there going, "What are they doing?
Why am I being shown this?" Is what I kept saying. Like I don't understand. Roman apparently is nowhere to be found, so Kotaro goes off looking for him. And Chinatsu takes this chance to get Kotaro alone, and shows him the picture from the roller coaster that they took. And she also asks him to call her by her first name, and asks if she can call him Kota. And Akane sees them and gets an uneasy feeling about Chinatsu's obvious advances, and she tells Chinatsu that everyone is lining up for the next ride, and shoots Kotaro a disappointed look. He doesn't have much time to react before he gets a line message from Roman, who is at the first aid booth. And so Kotaro runs off to see if Roman's okay. He had a little bit of heat stroke, but he's probably all right. The nurse warns them both, like, stay hydrated. But Roman can tell Kotaro is like a little bit down and asks him if it's because of Akane and if they're actually dating. And so he offers to help Akane and Kotaro get lost together, is how he puts it. And he goes to text her to set it up, but then he sees in his group messages that Akane is saying that she's off on her own with Hira and they're lost. Uh-oh. So Hira tries to buy Akane like a Pocari Sweat, but she insists on paying him back, and he ends up just keeping it. So that was like a kind of awkward interaction. Akane is trying to keep a little bit of distance between them, it seems like. Meanwhile, Kotaro is searching for both of them, but can't find them. He stumbles across the rest of the group, and they tell him to give Akane some space. Like, they're still assuming that she wants to be with Hira, and like this is her time to be alone with him. So Chinatsu follows Kotaro when he leaves to keep looking for them. Finally, Kotaro spots Hira and Akane walking together, and he keeps his distance at first. And then there's like this short, deafening silence as he's watching Akane and Hira walk off together in front of him. And then he finally decides that he has determination to do something about it. He walks straight up to Hira, and he calls out to Akane. And Hira's like confused by the whole situation. Like, Kotaro's just standing there in front of him, looking in his eyes, and he tells him, "She's my girlfriend. We're in a relationship." And they just stare at each other. And Hira eventually asks Akane, "Is this true?" And she's like, "Yes, it's true." Kotaro then grabs her by the hand and asks her to come with him, and like walks off like a boss. And then Chinatsu sees them walk off hand in hand, and she tears up and starts crying as she looks at the photo from the roller coaster, realizing she's been defeated. She deserved this, to be honest, because it doesn't make me feel any less bad for her, but she set up this whole situation. She kind of had this coming. Hira returns to ask Akane's girlfriends if she's really in a relationship. He kind of still doesn't believe it. And they had no idea because she never told them, but Roman confirms that, yeah, she's dating Kotaro. And so we return and find Akane and Kotaro, who are like sitting next to each other in silence for like a really long time. They're just pondering everything that just happened.
Awkward.
And then Kotaro apologizes, saying like, hey, I'm sorry, I got lost in the moment. And Akane says, no, don't worry, it was the truth after all. And they both kind of smile at each other. And Akane starts to wonder where everybody else went, but Kotaro quickly says, wait, can we just stay alone together a bit longer? And she kind of agrees. So they go get some takoyaki, and Akane realizes that it's like the first time they've ever eaten together. And they go on this water coaster ride and get soaked, and then to like a haunted park, or haunted house, sorry. And then like some ride that gives them like a huge bird's eye view of the whole park way up in the sky. Akane tries to take a selfie of them, but because they're not close enough together, they're both barely in frame. So she's like, okay, come on, get closer. And so they take a nice picture. And then like when he gets closer, she gets like really startled. It's very cute, blah, blah, blah. It's now nighttime, and Chinatsu meets back up with the other girls, and they see her face and can tell that she's been crying for a while. And they tell Chinatsu that Akane and Kotaro are still off doing their own thing. And then they both kind of incisively ask, like, is it Kotaro that you're crying about? And she can't hold it back. And I just like that continuing theme about how Akane's friends are smart for their age. Like, they get what's going on. They're not, like, completely oblivious like in so many other anime. And they try to comfort Chinatsu a bit. Meanwhile, Kotaro and Akane are watching the fireworks go off over the park.
Well, that's a different show.
That's literally Food Wars is what that show is. The fireworks. And Akane says that they should come back together just alone sometime. It's nighttime now, and Kotaro grabs Akane's hand and looks at her, and she looks back at him, and they both turn towards each other, and there's like a long moment where like the fireworks are in back of them and they're like framing their silhouetted faces, and then Kotaro leans in and Akane like tilts her head up and leans in, and they get really close, and it's this really gorgeous shot. And then surprise, a little fucking demon spawn child comes up. This fucking little bitch who I hate, and says, look, mommy, they're kissing. And I literally had to pause the episode and ponder,
like, get your breathing under control.
I had to think about like how much I wanted to strangle this imaginary little girl. And I needed to calm down for a little bit. Anyway, they don't kiss. They laugh it off. And I was really disappointed. I thought there was a moment there where, like, imagine if Akane had just said, like, hey, do you want to try that again? And had gone for it. I would have fallen so much further in love with her than I already am. Like, this anime is good at, like, subverting expectations for a lot of different things. But this time it was just so cliche that I was like so upset. Like, I just wanted them to subvert it again. I guess they're saving that kiss for a later episode, but god damn it, I wanted it. It was so earned.
What episode is this? That was 7. Okay.
7, yeah. So they got a ways to go. So I guess they're saving that kiss.
Please tell me this is just a 12 episode anime.
It is.
Oh, thank God.
Let's see. So, Chinatsu and Hira are like sadly watching the fireworks as well. And Chinatsu, I liked this. She apologizes to Hira for inviting him. And that confirmed for me that she only invited him to split up Akane and Kotaro. And like maybe even get Akane to fall for him, like she assumes might happen. So like, yeah, Chinatsu, what she did was really mean this episode. Like, she asked permission from Akane if she could like confess to Kotaro the other episode, but she didn't say she was going to deviously try to split them apart and then like get her to go with Hira. Like, so she deserves all the pain and suffering she got. She brought this upon herself.
Being a middle schooler, you don't realize the repercussions of what you're doing. You don't really realize how kind of evil and bad it is. It's just
maybe.
another little bit of a game. I don't think you realize those things until you get quite a bit older and definitely have a lot more experience in the world of love or whatever.
Yeah, at least she had the wherewithal to like realize that what she did was kind of unfair to Hira, to put him into the middle of the situation. But he says don't worry about it because like he learned something that he needed to learn too. So yeah. On the train home, Kotaro is sleeping and Akane is texting with Chinatsu. And Chinatsu's like sends her a text saying she's sad that she couldn't confess. And Akane doesn't reply by text, but out loud she just says, "I'm sorry." End of the episode. Okay, and then we get a bunch of shorts, like so many shorts, like 5 of them or no, 6 of them. Is ridiculous. So the first short, Sakura is like fantasizing about Kotaro's friend Ogasawara for being a good student and all this stuff and like being the second son in his family, all these perfect things. But then she's like, oh, but he's in the judo club, so he's no good. I was like, what? This is a weird one. But then there's a series of shorts that are about Ryoko, who is the chorus teacher at the school. And the girls are all kind of jealous of her because the boys like her because she's pretty. Like in the first short, the boys are giggling because they can see her bra strap in class. And then in the next short, like the boys notice that she smells really nice and the girls like bitch and complain about her in the bathroom. But then they're like, oh, what is the perfume she's wearing? And they're like, oh, it's just this normal soap scent. And they all like pause and then they're like, give me that thing. I got to try it out. And then in the third short, the girls see a picture of Yoroko on this website called like Charming Women Spotted Around Town. And now they like after this third short, they've become like full-fledged groupies because they like run up to her and they're like, Ryoko sensei, you're so cool, like kind of thing. It was a really quick turnaround.
Middle schoolers, come on.
Yeah, typical. The 5th short is about Setsuko wanting to finally break it off with Nagahara. And he asks her to talk about it in a love hotel, which he wants her to pay for. So that didn't go very well because in the beginning of the 6th and final short, it's another Sakura fantasy one. And we find out Nagahara did indeed get dumped because of that. And she wonders if maybe he's the perfect guy for her after all, since he's now available. But in the end determines he's just a party animal. So yeah, that was this episode. I thought it was a really solid episode. I was happy that Kotaro like stood up for himself. The whole first half of the episode, I was really worried we were going to get into this drama with misunderstandings and missed connections where Akane was going to go off with Hira and Shinatsu was going to make her move on Kotaro, and then it was going to be all this drama, but it got cleared up like halfway through just because Kotaro finally decided, hey, I'm going to make my intentions clear here and stand up for myself. So I'm glad he did. What did you think, Leo?
My brain says, these are middle schoolers. You don't care about their relationships. And I go, you're right. And my one quick note is I'd rather watch Aramanga Sensei over again because at least it keeps me awake to hate on it. And listeners, you can't take my opinion. This is not my genre. I mean, yeah. I can see why this show's good, but it's not for me. And it's torture just to sit still and watch this for 24 minutes.
I felt like that a little bit about today's episode of Machiavellianism. Not to be mean or anything. It's just like certain parts of that episode felt like really disconnected to me. Like shit was just happening for no reason. And I was like, man, when is this episode going to end? It's just not my genre. Like that's why I like having both of us on the podcast, because we both have different perspectives and different types of shows that we like.
Yes, I do like that too. Yeah, and I like Machiavellianism because I can sit there and I get to turn my brain off. Mm-hmm. And it's just nice to do every once in a while.
I have a tough time turning my brain off.
All right. Let's talk about a show on Friday called Rage Bahamut Virgin Soul. It's called The Day of Defeat. Episode 8, yes. And it starts off by reminding me that sexy demon girl got smashed.
Like literally half of her legs are sticking out of the pavement.
I put the shot here and like her left side's like crushed down into it, but her right side's still up, and there's like a rock on top of her face. So there's blood everywhere.
Yeah, it's pretty gruesome.
It's pretty gruesome. I put that picture in there. Then I put a sexy picture of her in there. And I would just like to have a moment of silence for sexy demon lady. All right, enough of that. We have Nina running around like looking for Muguro, and that's just it. It's just that quick scene and just whatever. We go back to Azazel, and Muguro is like floating overhead and glowing that gold light that causes all the green gems on the soldier's armor to like lose all its power. Azazel takes this opportunity to quickly engage Charios, take him by surprise only for a second, but that's all it is. And they're just on a one-on-one. Azazel isn't doing very well, but then like he gets backed up and he's close to like sexy demon lady smash, mutilated corpse, and he starts to come back a little bit, gets a little back in his step. Stop reminding me about sexy demon lady. It's sad. So then it just immediately goes to the intro, and when we come back, we have Kaiser Roll, who has just suddenly jumped into the middle of the two, and he's like blocking with the one sword with like his hand, I think, because it's fake metal, and he's blocking the other sword with his own sword. Azazel then like launches his shadow snake attack at Kaiser, then keeps attacking him, saying he's done listening to all this nonsense. Then like Charios jumps in and takes his own swing at Kaiser, and he's like telling him, I told you if you interfered, I would eliminate you. Now this is this really cool three-way sword battle starts. Yeah,
that was awesome. Like that's really hard to choreograph.
Yeah, and it was choreographed too, and it was probably only 10 seconds. But that was a cool 10 seconds,
It was
dude.
a cool 10 seconds. Like I was like, oh, I hope this goes on for a while. And I was like, oh, it's so short. But
yeah, it's sad so short. But yeah, it's totally worth it. And like, yeah, just the difficulty of probably doing that, like 10 seconds is probably just maybe asking. Any more would have been asking for too much from the animators. But Kaiser eventually gets like a punch in on Azazel's solar plexus and knocks the wind out of him, taking him out of the fight. And it's just Charios and Kaiser fight now. And like Kaiser eventually like throws up his hand, and Charios' sword goes through it and just stops like an inch from his face. But it allows him to like, he's using his fake hand, obviously, if I didn't say that. He uses it to disarm Charios. So Kaiser's a badass, and he took both of them out of the fight, really.
That was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. But right now, the gods have now shown up, and they're using some kind of like binding chain spell on Muguro. And since he's being bounded or whatever, his magic stops, and Azazel immediately tries to get up and go and fly him, but since the soldiers got their power back, they like grab him by like the freaking ankle and like jerk him back down to the ground. The angels are like now rising up, and their portal's open, and they're getting ready through the portal when Nina finally shows up, and it's like Azazel's yelling at her to transform. There's also in one of the shots you see like Hamza and Bacchus like unconscious. They're also being taken up into the portal with them. And like this scene was strange. It was good but strange. Like Nina is like looking around, assessing all this damage. She sees like all these dead people and all the dead demons and all the, just like the chaos and like structures and what off. And like she closes her eyes, and we get this super lengthy scene of us like sitting here asking, what's she going to do? And
then like you hear like the wind blowing like by her face, and like it gets really quiet, and she's really concentrating hard.
Yeah, and like Charios, like even like one of his men goes to step forward and he puts out a hand just like to hold him back. Nobody says anything. Even he wants to see what's going to happen. And I'm pretty sure we literally got a shot of like every single semi-important person's face watching and waiting. Like they're ratcheting up the tension.
Oh, and then she just like opens her, and then the clouds come overhead and like blot out the sun. It's like really setting this thing up.
Yeah, and then she just like opens her eyes. She's like, I can't transform.
She can't transform.
Like, whoa!
After all that, and then like everybody did like the angels just suck like Bacchus and Muguro and everybody up through the portal like it was nothing. It's really fun.
Yeah, and they go away, and like then the shoulders jump in and surround Nina and like whack her in the back of the head with the blunt end of the sword and knock her unconscious. And like that scene ends with Azazel being like, damn it all. So the town, Charios has put out like basically a notification or whatnot of the people that committed these crimes, and like the townspeople have seen the notice, and it says like Nina attacked the king, and they can't believe it. They townspeople are like trying to defend her. They're like, oh, she's such a good and loving girl, she would never do any of this. But like the guard eventually gets fed up, and he's like, if you keep defending her anymore, I'm gonna throw the rest of you in the dungeons also. We have Kaiser and Nina. They're shackled. They're like in front of the king, be read off what their crimes were. It all comes down to treason. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Nina still trying to look around and like see a hot guy so she could transform. But she's like not having any luck because it's like all these old advisors and stuff like that.
Oh, I meant to mention that in that long build-up scene earlier where she had her eyes closed, I kept thinking like, I wonder what Lude thought she's thinking right now. She's trying to transform. Like, that scene went on for so long. I feel like somebody could make a video of that where you like intercut her thoughts with like an episode of like High School DxD or something. I don't like, I don't know.
Or even like do some voicing for inner monologue. She's like, big dicks, big dicks, big dicks.
Exactly, yeah. Oh man, actually, if they I forget if they're doing a dub of this show, but I'd love to like hear something like that. It'd be so good.
It would be. So anyways, Cherios is like doling out their punishment and they will be imprisoned indefinitely in the tower. And I was just at this scene, I was kind of waiting for Cherios to eventually have a reaction to Nina. He knows who she is, but it does nothing with that. I just felt like there's maybe a missed opportunity there.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know.
Maybe he's saving it up. I don't know. But like Nina starts complaining. She's like, indefinitely. She's like, could you like make it like 3 days instead? Okay, Chio.
Oh, your cat.
Yeah, did you not hear her just attack?
I actually didn't hear her that time. That's funny.
Okay, cool. It's good. But like they're carting them away and Cherios is like, stop. And then like Nina takes this opportunity to like berate the goddamn shit out of him. Mm-hmm. Just on and on about how she hates him and he's a terrible person and blah, blah, blah. And like all the nobles are like, oh my God, this is heresy. It's crazy, blah, blah, blah. They're like freaking out. And all Cherios does is just like laugh at the end. And like Nina's like fighting her guard and she like bites him. And then Cherios just flat out asks if she's the Red Dragon. She's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about.
So yeah, that leads me to wonder, like, does Cherios not know that she's the Red Dragon? Because like in the scene earlier in this episode, she was like, I can't transform. I can't do it. He was right there. He heard her say all of that. Like,
yeah, they keep alluding to it, but
he must know at this point, unless he's like
he hasn't seen her
idiot.
Transform yet. I'm sure he's under the assumption, but
yeah.
And then Cherios just, orders them taken away. Muguro eventually wakes up. He's like on the floor of one of the gods' realms, and like Gabrielle descends to talk to him. She says, "You have nothing to fear," and which is always a bad sign in anything. If they tell you you have nothing to fear from us, probably means you should be very cautious.
Especially since Gabrielle like is a known dropout from school.
Yeah.
No.
Oh my God! Did you just make a callback to last season?
Yeah, I wouldn't trust Gabrielle.
Oh man! Oh yeah, if this is the same Gabrielle, yeah, don't trust her for sure. And he also tells her. We don't know what Muguro's gender is yet, but name is L, and his mother is John the Ark, which we assumed, anyways. And Gabrielle also says if he joins forces with them, he can see his mother. That's kind of like her whole speech to try to get them on their side. There's a next scene of like Bacchus and the duck guy, Hamza. They're like being held prisoners basically, and like Lady Sophia shows up. And the whole scene is just so we get information on what the gods are planning. Gabrielle wants to use Muguro to get the humans back to praying to the gods and worshipping them. And Muguro's power is the only thing that can break the forbidden magic that the humans have been using. Quick scene back to Nina and Kaiser being transported by boat to this show's own version of Alcatraz.
I thought the same thing. It's an island prison in the middle.
It's an island prison. I don't know whose mind wouldn't immediately go there. Nina asks about what happened to the rag demon, and one of the guards says, "Oh, he's probably getting tortured for more information." And then like Nina suddenly is just like super bummed she still can't transform. So Azazel's now bound to the wall, and whip and chains are not exciting him.
Yeah.
You know what song I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not exciting him. Cherios shows up and confirms that Azazel didn't know what Muguro actually was. And Cherios' plan was to kill the child before the gods got them, but it doesn't matter. He says the gods are overconfident, and he'll just use that to defeat them anyways.
You know what? I lied. What song were you talking about?
Where it goes, whips and chains excite me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know that song. Never mind.
That's why I said he's bound to a wall and whips and chains are not exciting him, because he is being whipped and there are chains.
God, that's good.
I don't even think I like that song. I'm pretty sure I don't. It's just on the radio and I have to listen to it. Charios also hopes like Jeanne d'Arc will stop praying once he defeats the gods, because does nothing but pray in her cell. And Nina's cell is just conveniently across from Jeanne d'Arc's cell. So, Yep. And then after credit scene of Kaiser in his cell when he suddenly hears a familiar voice coming from across his cell. And it's Fava Bean with a big old stupid smile on his face and a lot of facial hair for being stuck in a cell for a while.
Can you believe that this show revealed Favreau in an after credits scene?
Yeah, it makes for a great cliffhanger.
It was great. And man, he looks awesome with his crazy beard and everything. But fuck, in an after credits scene, that's how you're going to reveal Favreau? And oh man, I was a little bit disappointed. And at the same time, I was like, of course that's what they did.
Yeah, of course, because I can see why you're disappointed, but then isn't that a great cliffhanger? So you're like,
it is.
God damn it, I gotta watch the next episode.
And now you got Nina, Jeanne d'Arc, Kaiser, and Favreau all in one prison. And all I can say is good luck, prison guards. You guys are totally fucked.
Yeah, and it looks like Favreau's been in there a while.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure we'll find out. He's always up to no good, so.
Oh, yeah.
Any other thoughts on this?
Our little necromancy girl just got kind of left on the side this whole episode.
Yeah, she had one line. She's like, oh, God, what did these guys do?
No, she's like, where the heck is everybody? That was it.
Yeah, she's kind of left all on her own. She only has Rocky, and that's all she's got.
It's fine. They did a ton of other stuff this episode.
I guess everybody's excited that Favreau's back, and I am too. We'll see what happens.
I honestly didn't care for Favreau from the first season, but I did get excited to see him this time because of his big old goofy smile, and I guess I do want to see his weird antics again.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's all I got.
All right, then let's move on to Saturday and the next episode of Recreators, episode 7. The titles just keep getting ridiculously long. The title is I Don't Want to Make a Mistake for the Sake of the People Who Are in My Story. It's like, Jesus, guys.
Whoa.
Calm down with the titles. So the episode opens with Alisteria and Silesia still fighting by the bridge, and Mamika breaks them up and tells them that they can't agree and then they should just leave each other alone, and she'll use her magical splash flare on anyone who continues fighting. She's determined to stop it.
I think it's kind of interesting how this show made Mamika one of the strongest characters.
Yeah, I think
she's a
really
magical
cool
girl.
I liked how Alisteria was she was afraid, genuinely afraid of having that attack used on her. It's interesting because I don't understand how Alice would realize that Mamika is strong enough to defeat her or to be afraid of her, because she hasn't known her for very long. But I guess she can kind of sense it, maybe, that Mamika is very strong and she's capable of taking them down if she wanted to.
Well, they didn't show that scene, but she actually has a scouter, and she looked at her power level, and it was over 9,000. She freaked out. So sorry, I had to do that.
Yuya, who is the sword guy from the final boss of a video game, he shows up and he wants in on the battle, and he's taking it to Alice and the gunslinger dude, Blitztalker, and Mamika keeps coming between them, though, and separating them with her powers. And Magane, the shark tooth girl, she's observing them. They're all causing a pretty huge disturbance with this fight. And she tells Silesia, maybe you should stop them if you don't want them to keep causing disturbances. And Meteora agrees. She gets in between Yuya and Mamika. This is what Silesia does. And it seems like things might quiet down. But then Rui lands his giant-ass mech in the river next to the bridge. And that immediately causes, Alice to say, okay, we need to get the hell out of here. And she grabs Mamika and flies off.
The battle is no longer nowhere near in their favor.
Yeah. They fly off in a unicorn or whatever. And Blitz leaves as well. And
I noticed her horse didn't do so much as the weed eater sound anymore.
Oh, yeah. Maybe that.
Because when it first showed up, it was "Ring," and I was like, what?
Maybe they had an internal discussion about that. Rui waves his mech's arms and back and forth. He's like, is everybody okay? He's like a big nerd. And Yuya comes back to headquarters with all of them, saying that he thinks if he sticks with them, he'll have a chance to fight Blitz again. And he's just sitting on the couch, eating ice cream, and Rui is eating chips next to him and stuff.
Dude, I love it how they just bro it out. It's awesome.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna get to that in a second. So Sota has told Silesia that Magane is a character from the novel called Yaso Kiroku, and her power is called the infinite deception of words, which she can use to bend reality. So we've kind of saw that in previous episodes. So their next step is to try to track her down before she does anything. And Yuya says that he believes that she may be searching for a new purpose in this world because he realizes that he himself has changed since coming there, and he thinks that it's because like certain plot threads about his character don't make sense in the real world, so they're kind of rewriting themselves, so he's a slightly different character than what he was meant to be. And so he thinks that Magane is like searching for her new identity because of this. And then Rui like turns to Yuya and is like, dude, you're so cool. And then Yuya's like, oh man, but your mech is a badass. And they start broing out, like you said. It was a total Gurren Lagann moment. Like he is totally Kamina, and Rui is totally Simone in that moment. And they're like, yeah, we're just gonna like lift it up to the heavens. It's like, oh god. It was such a perfect
believe
homage.
In yourself, because I believe in me who believes in you.
Exactly. Yeah. Make the impossible possible. So, let's see. In the next scene, we see that Magane has gotten to her author's apartment before anyone could protect him. She's like chugging down a carton of milk, and like the light in his kitchen is like flickering. And as the scene progresses, we see that his body is like hanging from the ceiling, lifeless. And he's looking at like her own story and realizing that like she can't rewrite it herself. It's going to be a little bit more complicated than that. She's wishing that she could just give herself more powers, but she doesn't know how to do it right now. Meanwhile, Sota has figured out that Blitz Talker, the gunslinger dude, is a character from the manga Code Babylon, who's a mercenary who can use gravity bullets. Rui's author feels like he's seen the military princess somewhere before, but he just can't place it. And Sota is nervous, but he continues to be quiet about that.
Why?
I don't know. He's just worried about it for some reason. I think he doesn't fully understand everything. Marine,
but he would. Well, that's a perfect reason to tell them to help him understand.
I suppose so. And he will sort of later in the episode start to break down that wall.
In a dumb way, if you ask me. But go ahead.
Yeah. Marine says that Silesia told her that Sota can draw, and she'd love to see his drawings, but he says, no, I don't show my work to anybody. And I liked how the authors kind of lectured him about not showing his work, because they all have deadlines and they have to show their work before they really want to all the time, and they constantly get harsh criticism online for it. And so they say like, hey, we show our work anyway, we do our best. And like Sota almost at that point decides to drop the bombshell that he knows about the military princess, but gets interrupted and leaves instead. And meanwhile, the authors conclude that the military princess must have been created by someone who is interested in anime and video games, because her approval of all of the other people who are coming into the world has been only been given to characters from those sorts of genres. So they try to search Google Images for like a similar character, but there's like a million pictures of military princesses and they just can't find her. So I think it's like the next day, Sota is on a train and Mamika is on the train. She notices him. She's got like this cat ear hoodie on. She's like the cutest goddamn thing ever.
It was really cute.
She tells him not to run because she just wants to talk. And they head to a nearby cafe. Unfortunately, Magane was at the train station. She's got like this big wad of money in that she's stolen from somebody, and she follows them.
All these coincidences. It makes you think Japan or the city's really small. Yes, it's a small country, but they're still huge by their own means.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if you were going to see people, you would probably do it at a train station, though. That's where you would bump into each other, I assume. So that kind of makes sense to me. But Mamika asks Sota at the cafe if he knows her story and if he thinks it's any good. And he replies that, like, yeah, your story's for kids, but I still think it's a good story. And she's really happy about that. But she tells him something like what Yuya said, that she feels that her personality has changed after being in this world. She doesn't know if she's still like the same magical slayer Mamika that he met like way back when she first came into this world. And she says that her power is based on believing in things, and she pleads with Sota to please tell her the truth. so she can believe in the right things. And she like gently touches his hands and like stares into his eyes, and like he can't say no to that face, so he has to be honest to her. And she asks him, like, do you know who the military princess is? And he admits that he does know about her.
And then now everybody he tells somebody who's potentially his enemy. I have so many problems with Sota. He doesn't make sense.
Well, he tells the innocent magical girl what she wants to know. It's okay. I like that she gets it out of him, though. Like, he kind of feels like if there's anybody he could tell, it's this innocent magical girl who means to do the right thing, I guess. Even if she's on the other side. Yeah.
It just Sota doesn't follow the rules of logic to me. I remember you asking, a couple episodes back, like what the main character has to offer in this show. Mm-hmm. He was like kind of taking a back seat. Well, I think what he has to offer is his stupidity.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, because they could have a jump on the military princess if he just admitted everything that happened. But I guess he's afraid to admit that he might be bringing destruction on the entire world by having created this character.
Yeah, and I swear, if he turns out to be the military girl's creator, mm-hmm. he should have recognized her immediately.
That's true.
And she knew who he was, so if she was looking him up, then she must have looked him up as his creator.
Yeah, I mean, she popped up at his house, clearly.
So why did he legit not remember, unless they're going to pull the death of that one girl was so tragic, he blocked it out of his memory.
That's the only thing I can think of at this point. Yeah.
If they're going to play that, I think they're playing it too late at this point. I don't know. I just don't like Sota at all as a character and how they wrote him.
I kind of agree. So, meanwhile, Rui's author has found out who the military princess is. He was checking all of the popular anime and video games, and he realized the only place left would be a website that they call in the show Niwa Video, which is an obvious call out to nikovideo.jp, the website, where people share like doujinshi and videos and stuff. And so clearly it would have gotten enough likes and views there to make a lasting impression on people. And that's how she was brought into reality. And then back at the cafe, Sota is telling Mamika that the princess's name is Altair. And Mamika asks him if Altair is someone who would plan something as evil as Meteora led her to believe. And Sota tells her she is that evil. Altair hates this world, I think. And I just want to say that I think that's because the reason that Altair probably hates the world is probably because her character was written and informed by the girl who committed suicide at the beginning of the season. Because why would you commit suicide? Because you hate this world. And what kind of character would a suicidal person write? Somebody who they know, somebody who hates the world around them and wants to ruin it. And so, yeah, that basically confirms for me that she came up with that character.
And maybe if that's Sota
drew it. I don't know.
That's such a good writing and such a good motive for the military princess to behave like she does. Yeah. There's no reason why Sota behaves like he does.
I agree. Yeah, there's still some key we don't get with Sota. There's some key to his personality we don't get yet. I hope, at least, unless it's just really dumb. And I don't think it is, because I think everything else about this show is pretty well thought out. So hopefully they'll win us over with whatever the explanation ends up being.
Oh, God, they have to.
And by the way, Magane was in the cafe overhearing that whole conversation, and she kind of smiles to herself when she hears that Altair is evil and wants to destroy the world. So yeah, that's the end of that episode. Yeah, I think I covered most of the thoughts I had on it while I was going through the synopsis. I'm interested to see where things go from here. I really like Rui and Yuya's Gurren Lagann relationship.
Dude, it is awesome.
It's pretty dope. And I just liked even at the beginning, just continuing to see how all these characters' powers play off of each other. It's like definitely teasing us for what some like major battles that are going to come up later on. So let's move on though. We also had My Hero Academia Season 2, Episode 21, Battle on Challengers. So yeah, this continues the 16-person tournament after finally finishing drying the field from Todoroki's melted iceberg, which was ginormous. The next fight is going to be between the assassin Ibara Shiozaki from Class B, who is the vine-haired girl, and Denki Kaminari, the sparkling killing boy. And the announcer's like in the middle pumping up the crowd, and Ibara politely interrupts him and is like, "Why did you call me an assassin?" She like puts her hands together like she's praying, and like a beam of sunlight shines down on her. he apologizes. She's like, "The only reason I entered UA is for the salvation of others." And it's really cute. So Kaminari makes the genius observation that Ibara is pretty and also cute. He says he's pretty and cute. It's very important to note. Good for you, Kaminari. So he starts off the battle by asking Ibara on a date, and he launches a massive, like, indiscriminate shock electricity attack at Ibara to try to win the fight instantly. But Ibara turns around. She creates this huge vine pillar that blocks the electricity somehow, and the vine hair like jumps off her back and like goes through the ground and like reaches up underneath Kaminari's feet and binds him in midair, which instantly immobilizes him, and he like instantly loses. It's funny how the referee decided that he was instantly immobilized when Deku wasn't the previous episode.
They just keep doing this to me.
So, we learned that Ibara's quirk is called vines, and as long as they get plenty of water and sunlight, they'll grow quickly. So, Deku, after the match, and basically for the rest of the episode in between fights, is like scribbling furiously in his notebook, trying to figure out a way to counter Ibara's like strong vine attacks. And Ochiko tells Deku that she thinks he's amazing, but he's kind of like wrapped up in just trying to figure stuff out. Mm-hmm. The next match is between Ida and Mei Hatsume, the gadget girl. So Ida is strangely wearing some kind of gadget on his back, and Midnight, the referee, tells him that he was supposed to submit a petition before the battles if he wanted to use any kind of support gear. And so Ida apologizes, but he's like, "But I couldn't ignore Mei's sportsmanship. She was the one who gave him the gear," saying that she wanted a fair match. And Midnight is like so moved by Ida's like youthful exuberance that she allows it. But we all know better. Mei is using this entire match as a home shopping network advertisement.
It's awesome
for all of her gadgets. Yeah. So like both the ones that Ida is wearing and her own, and she's got like a mic and speakers that are equipped, and she's like pointing out all of the gadgets' usefulness to the crowd and to like the advertisers and like companies that are there. And we learned that Mei's perk is called Zoom, which I don't think she ever actually uses in this fight. If she gets serious, she can see clearly up to 5 kilometers away.
No, she used it to watch the business people to see how they were reacting to her stuff.
Oh yeah, up in like the boxes of the stadium.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So she didn't actually use it for the fight?
No, not at all. Yeah. Yeah, and then we get like a 10-minute time skip. Like this has been going on for 10 minutes. She's been selling all her stuff. And once she finishes, she literally just walks out of bounds and forfeits the match because she completed everything she wanted to do. And Ida is like so pissed. He's like, "You tricked me!" So then we got the third match. We have the pretty boy Yuga Aoyama versus that pink raccoon-eyed girl Mina Ashido again.
Pelvic thrust, pelvic thrust, pelvic thrust.
And Mineta, who's in the crowd, screams out that he wants Yuga to beat her like in those fighting games where you rip their clothes off. Because he really wants to see her naked, as he does with every girl. So,
man.
Deku's like, Yuga has a long-distance laser attack, so this whole fight is going to be about Mina avoiding that and getting close to him and getting it into a close combat thing. So that's basically how the fight goes. Like Yuga is like thrusting his pelvis repeatedly to fire his laser, but she's using her like athletic ability to avoid all the laser blasts. And when she gets close enough, she uses her acid quirk to launch it at his laser belt or whatever, which corrodes it. And then it drops his pants, which exposes his tighty whities. And then she uppercuts him to win the match. And Mineta in the crowd is like really depressed because if their quirks had just been switched, he would have gotten to see Mina's panties. But unfortunately for him, he didn't.
Mineta is here for comic relief.
100%. Yeah, I like him though.
Oh, geez.
The next match is that bird-headed guy, Fumikage Tokoyami, versus Momo Yaoyorozu and her Limitless Creation perk. And Deku says, like, yeah, the key to this match is going to be time. Yaoyorozu realizes this herself.
Real quick, the commentator is like, he also like specifically says, you know, that Momo is a prodigy of sorts and was like selected for so-and-so and like talks her up real big. Mm-hmm. But then go on.
Yaoyorozu realizes that she needs to act as quickly as she can to block Tokiyami's dark shadow, but the match starts abruptly and kind of catches her off guard, and he immediately launches his dark shadow at her, and this like barrage of attacks follow, and she can't even like, she can barely like create a shield to block it. She can't even create a weapon for a few seconds. And then before she realizes it, she feels like she has an opening because he stopped attacking her, but it's because she was knocked backwards out of bounds that quickly by his attacks. And she starts tearing up because she's like really upset with herself that she couldn't respond. And in the stands, Deku and Ojiro realize that Tokiyami was focusing all of his attacks on her shield because he didn't want to hurt her. So it just tells you a little bit about him.
Yeah, it just goes to show how powerful he actually is.
Yeah, and he's holding back for sure because he doesn't want to hurt people. So then, the next match is kind of boring. It's the match between Eijiro Kirishima and Tetsu, which is like the... I love saying that name. It's so good. It's the match between the two guys that get real hard.
Oh my god, you literally wrote time to see who can get harder. Giggle. Jesus.
Mineta has absolutely no interest in this match, which I thought was funny because it's between two guys and he's just like falling asleep. So meanwhile, Ida finds Ochiko because the show has no interest in this match either. It's not going to show it even. So Ida finds Ochiko like nervously.
The show even makes a joke about it because they're like, this is so redundant.
Yeah, they get like the same introduction and everything. It's just totally redundant. Ochiko's nervously preparing in the dressing room because her match is going to be with Bakugo. And Deku shows up also too, and he's like, don't worry, Ochiko, I've got a plan for how you can beat Bakugo. But she turns him down, saying that she's embarrassed to have relied on him so much in the cavalry battle already. And she pumps herself up and tells him, let's meet in the finals. And it was a pretty cool thing. There's like a lot of good music in the background and you're supposed to like be really pumped up for Ochiko.
I want to say, wasn't there a joke before where like somebody's like, surely Bakugo wouldn't go all out on a girl? And
oh yeah, and Deku's like, yes he would.
Deku's like, oh, he totally would. He's not going to hold back.
Yeah, I think they all kind of know that. Ida was the one who was like, maybe he won't. Yeah. So yeah, the Steel Fist Slugfest ends in a draw with both guys knocked out, those idiots. So, but everybody's kind of impressed by their determination to just punch each other repeatedly.
What other option did they have? They both had the exact same quirk. Their only options was to just turn it into a slugfest.
Exactly. So yeah, and then it's time to get hype for Ochiko versus Bakugo. And so that's where the episode ends. Like, to be honest, I fully expect Bakugo to win this match after Ochiko puts up a really good fight, but I'd have a lot more respect for this show and frankly interest in where it's going if Ochiko actually did win here. Because like I really only care about Deku versus Todoroki later in this tournament anyway. Like I don't really see a need for Deku to face off against Bakugo too. I assume that's how it's going to go down though. Like, but like I would like to see Ochiko win. Like I'm definitely going to be rooting for her next episode.
This is so far back in the manga, I don't remember what the outcome was.
Yeah, I hope to be pleasantly surprised. And like I just feel like Bakugo could use this loss as a lesson to learn that he needs to like study his opponents more and think for once instead of just using overwhelming brute force all the time. Though I guess he could probably learn that lesson while still winning the fight. So we'll see. Any other thoughts on this episode?
I said everything I wanted to say.
Okay. Let's move on.
All right. Let's do Attack on Titan Season 2, Episode 33. The boring episode. I mean, the Hunters. Well, we both agreed, really, this episode, nothing happened, right?
Yeah, I felt this was like sort of a filler episode, for sure.
So, all right, here we go. So, like, we pick up where the last episode ended with the Colossal Titan falling down from the wall. And when he lands, it's like a bomb going off. Everybody's getting flung off the walls. Trees are being uprooted. Boulders are flying everywhere. It's just crazy. There's this quick shot, like the armored Titan biting into the back of Aaron's neck and like pulling out a huge chunk who we're assuming is his real body. But Burnholt emerges from his Titan body with Ymir in his arms and gets onto the Armored Titan's shoulders, and they run off. So, yeah, they got Ymir and Eren in the end. They won that match, that battle at least. Back at the Trost district, Commander Pixis is like passed out drunk on top of the wall. Like one of his shoulders wakes him by like smacking him in the back of the head. They talk about something we already knew about.
Yeah.
That there's no hole in the wall. I don't know who this scene is for.
Me neither.
Is it so we understand that they know? But I'm assuming the word will get back to him regardless.
Mm-hmm.
But Erwin shows up and they have what like Pixie refers to as like a captured one of the troublesome mice, and hopefully it'll get the goons in the interior thinking. And I guess it has. And like the military police have now been forced into the area with Titans. And you had a interesting observation at this scene, right?
Yeah, this is like literally the only thing I thought was interesting about this entire episode, honestly, was where Erwin, like, so they learn about like that there's Titans in the Scouting Legion. Like they learn there's 3 of them, and John like leans forward and he's like, "Who were they?" Like really intently determined to know. And Erwin pulls him back by the shoulder, telling him to calm down. And like the only reason I thought this was of note is because there were similar types of scenes like this that I went back and found between Reiner and Bertholdt before they were revealed to be Titans. So just for me, like that reaction from John, which could be explained in other ways, to me shoots them to the top of the list of suspected Titans. Maybe not both of them, but at least maybe Jean. I don't know.
Yeah, see, I didn't think of that at all because I felt like his reaction was totally troubled. I mean, not totally troubled, totally accurate because, the Titans broke through a wall and, maybe they killed his wife and daughter. And of course he's freaking pissed and he wants to know who they are.
Yeah, it could easily just as easily be that explanation. Yeah.
It could go either way, but you have an interesting take on noticing that. Mm-hmm. But some of the military police thought it was like an emergency, wonder where all the Titans are. Like, nothing. And like some of them are like, I'm really ready to fight. Let's go kick their asses. And then like Levi's there and he's like, to give them a scare, he gives them like a scare with a little talk and whatnot. And the advance squad shows up and informs them that they found nothing. There was nothing in the walls. Stop reinforcing this. We know there's no hole in the wall. He also goes on to the report that the 104th squad actually had 3 Titans among them. We're regurgitating information here. It's just a weird episode.
Yeah.
I'm laughing because I know what's coming up.
Oh, yeah.
So we're back at the crew hanging out on the wall. We see that like almost everybody, definitely the mass majority, got wounded when the Colossal Titan fell from the wall, and caused the giant explosion thing. And one of them is Mikasa that they just think has a concussion. Man, then we could just get this completely unnecessary flashback of like Armin and Eren running through the shopping district, and it's a young boy. He's looking for Mikasa, and Eren's a young boy, and he's looking for Mikasa. And it seems like Eren is getting bullied by 3 people. Oh God, he's in trouble. Well, and like he wants Mikasa to go save his butt because like the bullies initially stole bread from Armin, and Eren's like, "I'll get it back for you," and he's a moron.
Yeah.
So like it goes back to Eren and the 3 other bullies, and like attacks one of the kids, and all adults around like just don't give a shit.
Yeah, even some of the soldiers, funny. They're just laughing at it.
Yeah, like even some of the soldiers, they're nearby, they're just drunk, playing cards in broad daylight, don't give a shit. And like one of these soldiers is Hans, and he says not to worry, somebody will be along shortly, take care of it. And voila, Mikasa shows up, and Hans kind of grins to himself. And Mikasa like kicks one of the boys right in the head and holds another like at bay by his face with the palm of her hand.
Yeah, and Mikasa's like a young girl at this point, and she's still just destroying these kids. It's really funny.
She like tells Eren to go home and chop wood before his mom gets mad. The soldiers are like laughing at this, and like one of the stall owners, he gets pissed because his table got wrecked and there's their little fight. And like one of the soldiers goes to like confront him, and Hans like holds him back, and he's like, "Hey, it's okay. Don't worry about it." And then like the stall owner punches Hans in the face. So like now Hans and the stall stall owner are like having a little fisticuffs going on, and then like some more shoulder soldiers show up and like break up the fight. And then like Eren still chases after 3 bullies because he's a moron and couldn't even take on one. What do you think the point of this flashback was?
The point of the flashback is to show that Eren doesn't give up, basically. But I didn't think we needed to be told that. Like,
yeah, exactly.
He's stubborn and he's an idiot. We've known that for all these entire series, and like, yeah,
and they keep reading, and it's the same story every time. Eren gets in trouble. He doesn't give up. Mikasa steps in and saves the day.
Exactly.
It's the exact same formula.
Yeah. Why did we need this? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Just most of this episode was unnecessary. Mikasa finally wakes up. Immediately, she's like, "Where's Eren?" Because of course. That's what she does. She like runs to the edge of the wall and like sees the crater where like the colossal titan had landed, and there's like a couple of regular titans now just like hanging out down there or whatever. She asks Armin again, and like I like to make jokes when I do my synopsis, but like nothing even happens in this one. I can do one.
There aren't that many things to make jokes about. Yeah.
So like she asks Armin again where he is, and he tells her about losing to the armored titan and being taken away. She's like, is anybody following them? And why are they not? And of course, like Mikasa's like super angry. But to pursue them would need like their horses, which are on the wrong side of the wall. And almost everybody's injured, too injured to move. Mikasa remembers how Eren was captured before by Annie, and her and Levi worked together to get him back like right away. But it had already been like 5 hours. That was like immediately when they did that. I mean, then that's enough to like kind of bring Mikasa down. But then good old Hans comes over and reminisces about the flashback that we saw earlier. Hans does say some good and uplifting things here about how he has never seen Eren win a fight, but he never gave up either. Okay. And that he's so tenacious, even he thinks it's scary. He says enough good things to get the fighting spirit back in the two. And then they just have this overly aggressive eating of these ration bars. Yeah. There's binders like
they're like angrily eating these rations, like determinedly eating.
Dude, I paused it and had to message you right away. I'm like I took the timestamp and I sent it to you. And I'm like, dude, when you get to this scene, just ask me if this makes sense to you.
Yeah, and it's funny because like I knew what you were talking about, even though I hadn't seen the episode yet. Because Twitter loves to spoil me on stuff, and I'd already seen the GIF of that on Twitter. Like, and I was like, oh god, I got that to look forward to.
I just want to know what were the animators thinking when they made that? That's so weird.
I mean, I guess they were thinking like we need to show that Armin and Mikasa are really determined and really like energized now. Like the whole thing is like I don't understand like why they felt this was necessary, because like of course Mikasa and Armin are going to go after Eren. They always go after Eren. It's not like they're just going to give up on him now. They didn't need like any motivation. But whatever.
This whole episode was just telling us stuff we already knew about.
Yeah.
80% of it was easily.
Yeah. And the only thing that wasn't was the reintroduction of Erwin and John. That's why I focused on that. So
because it was the only new thing.
It's the only new thing. I was like, why does this episode exist now? And that's the only thing I can think of.
They literally could have skipped the whole thing and just gotten to this final scene where the reinforcements arrived with Commander Erwin and the military police. Mm-hmm. While they're like deploying the lifts, like to move the horses up and over the wall, Zoe wakes up and asks to see a map. Even though the armored titan wouldn't be able to hide his footsteps, Zoe believes they're going to a patch of forest and they should just go straight there, because her theory is the other titans are still a threat to them since they're probably exhausted from the fight and need a place to rest until nightfall when the other titans can't move. Mm-hmm. So they can sit in the trees and whatnot and be protected. And of course, that's what the final scene is. If Eren like wakes up with his arms missing and Ymir in the background also awake, they're in that forest, like I said, and like then it goes back to like the other group setting out for the forest with the goal of making it before nightfall.
Yeah, I guess so. Reiner or whoever ripped Eren's arms off so he couldn't bite hymself and transform, I assume. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah, but knowing that all their limbs heal. And like I'll just like to know Ymir, when she's awake, you see her healing also. So
yep,
she's all good.
I'm glad she's okay. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, she's a pretty interesting character, really.
Yep.
Though she's definitely the weakest Titan out of them all.
I guess so far at least.
Which is interesting because when they're in their human forms, she's one of like the tallest and most dominating ones.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what that's about.
Aaron should be the little chibi Titan.
Yeah, a little runt Titan running around acting like a little bitch.
Oh my god. You got anything else you want to add? Maybe about Mikasa running like Naruto?
Oh yeah, that was the only thing. Like, yeah, in that flashback, Mikasa was like Naruto running around, and I was like, oh my god, Mikasa, you're such a nerd. And yeah, I don't know. I would also like to say that I watched the first 4 episodes of Naruto this week. So I'm
Naruto, not Naruto.
Literally the first 4 episodes of the original Naruto. Yeah. So
why?
Because I want to understand more about Naruto.
Do you plan on watching the rest?
I don't know. I kind of like it so far. I didn't like the first episode. The next couple.
I do remember liking it. Really, the only things I didn't like about Naruto Shippuden was like the filler episodes.
Oh yeah, and I haven't hit that part yet. So
they were at times mostly completely unnecessary, not even interesting, and they would do it right when like this crazy monumental stuff is happening, and you're just like, I just want to get back to the main story. I will say, Pain is one of my favorite bad guys of all time. I just thought he was super cool.
Oh, cool.
That's way down the line in Naruto Shippuden.
Yeah.
And when I say way down the line, I mean like 30% in.
Yeah, one of the reasons I'm interested in watching it is to see how bad the filler gets. Like, I do plan to watch the filler to see if I hate it just as much as everybody else. But we'll see how long that actually lasts and if I actually last in watching that series. We'll find out.
So I brought my Crunchyroll. I still have Naruto Shippuden on there. My next episode is episode 389. And what is it, like a 600 episode series?
Basically, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Uh-huh.
I almost want to watch it just so I can watch Boruto, and I think it's necessary, but I would like to since I'm this invested in the show. I mean, for God's sake.
I mean, Boruto could end up being like another 300 episode series too, you know? I mean, like...
yeah, I know.
Dangerous.
Well, do you got anything else you want to add, or you want to take us out?
I think that's it for this week, so I'll take us out. Thank you for listening. Remember, like, follow, and subscribe to us on YouTube to get updates on the new podcasts and videos we put out. Our podcast is available on iTunes, Google Play Music, and all other podcast feeds and services likely. You can also follow us on Twitter at Nerdom and Other for updates and info, and we will see you next week.
Later.
Peace.